Welcome back, everybody. She has such fresh perspective on all types of interior design. If you're looking to change your living space, your workspace, and we've talked about all different types of all different styles for design. Today, we're going to look at some of those situations that sometimes go bad. We all have them in our lives, our occupations, and this is kind of like we're peeling back the curtain for an interior designer and things you got to deal with sometimes. Mary Jo Major, our professional of the year, is back with us. How's it going?
Hi, Steve. It's going great.
Hmm.
It's going
I
well.
I'm sure you've seen a lot, experienced a lot,
Yes.
and this gets very personal when people are telling you what they want in terms of changing up their living space, and then you have
Mhm.
to adhere to that. But along the way, I'm sure you've experienced some very
Mhm.
interesting people, interesting
Mhm.
situations, right?
Yes, yes. It's thankfully a lot of my, I guess you can call it the dirt, isn't necessarily related to clients, but more of just kind of how the sausage is made, how you actually get stuff to look good in the end. It's not always as easy as you might think. So yeah, I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about, yeah, the some trade tales of what kind of goes on behind the scenes that not everyone knows about. Kind of the stuff you
Hmm.
see on TV, but and when it comes to real life, you don't always know about it.
But here's the difference. I'm the worst person to watch reality TV with because
Oh yeah.
being in the broadcast industry forever, I
Mhm.
always look at that and I'm like, it's not real. They reset it, they staged it, or they amped it up, and they're done that. All that. What we're
Right.
talking about today is the real deal. That's the
It's
difference.
yes, it's the real deal. And as with everything, at some point you just have to laugh about it because it's just funny. I mean, you just
Sure.
there's a lot of things in life that you just have to laugh about how it went. I was gonna the first story I was gonna talk about is I live in DC and most homes are these little kind of row homes, very urban row homes. And specifically on Capitol Hill, they aren't very wide, right? They're pretty narrow. And specifically, people more and more are trying to make their basements into like the second kind of living room space versus a guest room or even a playroom. They're really trying to maximize it. And so a few years ago, actually, right as COVID was hitting, if I can't even believe that it was that long ago, I had designed this amazing sectional double chaise lounge. I mean, it was probably 13 feet wide and it came in pieces. So I was like, all right, this will be fine. And when the delivery guys showed up, they they were like, um, yeah, this is not gonna fit. It's not gonna fit. And I remember you have those moments when someone tells you stuff like that, and it's like this expensive piece of furniture, and you're like, it can't just sit out in the open in the air. You don't want it to get gross, but you're not sure really what to do about it.
Did you initially think that's impossible? That can't be.
Well, and some part of my mind is like, you do this all the time. This isn't new for you to go to DC to make these deliveries. Y'all know how to magically make things go. Why are you even asking if it can work? And I will say that not every delivery service is the same, right? Everyone's kind of different in how they deliver things, but I remember I had I guess the ending of the story is I had a design friend who had mentioned, I remembered in the back of my head something about this guy she knew that took furniture apart. And I didn't really believe
Wow.
it, but I was like, all right, well, this is all I got. So I remember I called him and I kind of explained, he's like, oh, yeah, that's fine. And I was like, what do you mean? That's fine. He's like, yeah, I can come and put it in. And so I was like, all right, well, what's your schedule? And so we coordinated. I think he came the next day and they had it. I think they could put it in their living room. I can't remember exactly what happened, but yeah, I told my client she wasn't allowed to look because I think it gets a little distressing to watch your furniture being ripped apart. But this guy literally took apart the frame. Like I'm talking like looks like he is ripping it apart, fit everything down and put it all back together, and you would never have known.
Wow.
I know it was crazy. And yeah, it's so funny because he had such his attitude. Like, of course I can do this. Why would you even question like my ability to to do this? I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't. This is, somewhat of a new trick to me. So I even did it for a friend recently with a sleeper sofa. So, I mean, anything's possible, I guess. But yeah, that was yeah. So all these stories, by the way, they have a positive resolution. It just it's how we got there.
You bring back memories like telling the client don't watch because you don't want to see. I was a fanatic about my lawn 2 houses back and
Uh-huh.
needed to run electrical line to the hot tub. And my
Okay.
friends were there helping me with it. And yeah, they're like, the only way to do it is we're going to cut up the lawn. We're going to chop the lawn part. And my best friend, he's like, you need to leave. He goes, you need to leave and now. Because I'm like, and if you do it right, you can't really tell. But I had to get out of there. I'm gonna go. I'm going to Chick-fil-A. We'll catch you later. Be back. Text me when you're done. Because you don't want to see. You don't want to see what's going on there.
You don't want to, yeah, you don't want to see. And part of my job is to make the experience go really smoothly. And
Sure.
so you can't, there are times when you can't really hide certain stuff from happening, when things are really
Mm,
off. But yeah, that's part of it is shielding them from
yes. Yes.
from the stress. Yes. And in talking about this one story, I'm actually reminded of another one where my client had a little sunroom and we wanted to do this really beautiful bright teal velvet sectional sofa, like a little more like a chaise. So it's the kind where you can put your feet up. And it was going to be this lovely spot where they had all these visions of how they were going to, play with their kids and all this stuff. And I asked them, whenever I was about to order it, I had measured, but I wanted to verify the measurement. And so I said, "Hey, would you mind just measuring one more time?" And so they did. And so we ordered it. And sure enough, when it came, they, I didn't, we both kind of forgot about baseboards. So because of the baseboards, it literally didn't fit on the wall. So in order to fit, we had to like literally carve out the baseboards where the sofa was so it could like get where it was supposed to be. Cause I think it was just a half inch. You know what I mean? It was just so tight. Um,
Wow.
I know. So yeah, luckily that worked.
Wait, I'm bringing back. You're sparking my memory. My current couch with the Chase Lounge. I bought it in a rush. I moved kind of in a rush.
Uh-huh.
And this is 2 years ago. And
Right.
I had this vision of, well, yeah, I can move it. I'm thinking ottoman, it's probably detachable because I had an ottoman
Oh yeah.
previously and got, but the furniture was old, so I got rid of it. But I
Mhm.
love moving that and it doesn't, what I have now doesn't move. It just at the end of the couch and it extends. But I had no idea because I bought it so fast. I just assumed
Oh,
it's all good, but it would be a little more flexible if I want to sit in the middle of the couch and then move it down there a la ottoman. But
no.
yeah, the Chase Lounge sounds good sometimes. Yeah, maybe not the best. Um, so the
Yeah.
molding just for the Chase Lounge section, you had to carve that out.
Yeah, we had to rip it off the wall.
Wow. Wow. Just so you can push it back. Crazy.
I know. I know. It was, I mean, like I said, thankfully it worked with that. If it hadn't, in those the kind of the only other option is to have to reorder it or talk to the vendor about how to
Yeah.
get it fixed, which that kind of stuff, it's not like it never happens. It takes longer. And when you've been looking forward to something for 3 months, it's hard to say, all right, now I'll wait some more. But it
Mm.
will in the end be the best. But yeah, I'm thankful that that's all it took.
To your credit, you got it done.
I got it done. Yes, got it
Yeah.
done. Got it done. And the other, when we're talking about things that fit, I had another client, this was early on in my career, who wanted some bar stools for her island. And she had some that she liked. And so we were just like, great, we'll just, find some that are exact same size, a little bit different, but the same kind of look. And so we ended up finding some that were the exact, literally to the inch, everything was the right thing. And we had this beautiful fabric that had like this special pleat on the back. I mean, it was like this whole thing with like these special buttons and like all these, you know, all these different little details about it. And I remember the delivery guys came to drop them off. And it honestly, Steve, it was one of my most embarrassing moments, I would say, is my sweet client. They weren't, they weren't the right size. She couldn't fit in them because the way that the chair was on the new chair, it had an inch or a half inch that came on either side because it had like a side part, and her other stools were just kind of all the way open. So because of that, she couldn't fit in her own bar stools.
I'm laughing inside, but also biting my cheek at the
I
same time
know
because I can
it's
feel the
terrible.
angst. Like, and then how do you, she's sitting there, they're nice, but yeah, I'm
I
not that
know.
comfortable. How does she like
I,
approach that?
exactly. Well, I think she was, I mean, and she was an older client, and I just remember, it's something again, you don't even really always notice or think about, but again, my job is to make it a positive experience, right?
Sure.
Not one where it shames someone or makes them feel uncomfortable. And so I, of course, felt super, yeah, embarrassed. And so we ended up quickly finding, an alternative because no one wants something in their home that doesn't fit. That's not fair. So we found another option, and we had it quickly, customized. And anyway, it worked out well, but it was something that, yeah, I will never forget how, yeah,
Awkward.
it's those details. It's, the devil's in the details. It is. It's so true. You have to really pay attention. And each one of these experiences, as with most industries, you kind of learn, right? Or at least you hope you do. And so
Hmm.
each time you come across something else, you kind of have this, wait a second, did I check for this? Did I think about this? Just because, yeah, you want to make sure that you don't repeat the same mistake again.
This one, I'm gonna give you a pass on this one because it's an isolated situation.
Right.
You're not measuring her butt.
I
Like
know.
how do you,
I know.
what do you do with that?
Yeah.
She liked it, so one would assume that she processed. I like that because I can also fit in it in my mind. Um,
Yeah. I
hmm,
mean, yeah, it was a little awkward all around, but like I said, luckily we were able to kind of move past. But I mean, I did, and she still hired me to do other stuff. So we didn't, burn any bridges through it either, which I also
sure.
felt like was a positive sign.
Hmm.
And so anyway, but on the same note, as we're talking about chairs, I have a really good one, Steve. I have a really good story. Okay, so I'm going to rewind the clock a little bit to, again, back in the dark ages of 2021. There was a foam factory that exploded in Texas. I don't know if you ever heard anything about any heard about this. But the ripple effect meant that people couldn't get their furniture for months and months and months and months and months because the foam in all different furniture was back ordered because they had to literally rebuild the factory. They literally didn't have it. So in that same time frame, and I can't actually take credit for this story. This is a colleague of mine, but it's too good. I had to share it. She had a client who'd gotten some dining room chairs done, and it was from a store, and the dining room chairs came, and she reached out to my buddy and she said, "Hey, I think something's wrong with these chairs." And my friend said, "No, I mean, you probably just have to get used to them, just kind of break them in a little bit." She's like, "I don't know." She's like, "They sound kind of crunchy." She was like, "Crunchy." So sure enough, she goes over and she tries to figure out what's going on. And they, I think they must have opened up they somehow were able to figure out what was going on. And inside was bubble wrap. It was plastic
Wow. In place of foam.
in place of foam. In place of foam. Brand new chairs, but they don't have stuffing. They have plastic inside.
Wow.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's so funny. It's terrible.
Well, aside from the fact that you're not getting what you really paid for, you paid
Right.
for the integrity of the foam, which is going to last forever. The bubble wrap, it is what it is. You know what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So they found that the company who had made them was just trying to get orders out the door because it'd been delayed for so many
backlogged.
months.
Sure.
And so I think people were just kind of desperate and started just shoving whatever they could into these furniture pieces to get them to go out.
Oh my
So
gosh.
isn't that bad? It's like I said, you know, that was a moment in time in the design industry that was super stressful for many reasons. But yeah, that I don't really, yeah, I don't know any other instance of that happening.
Just think about
I
how
know.
many went out the door at that factory with bubble wrap.
Maybe any of your listeners with crunchy chairs, maybe they should
Right.
look
You
it up.
might want to check.
Right, you might
That's
want to check
crazy.
if you bought these chairs in 2021 if they sound a little weird. Yeah, yes, and that so yeah, there's all kinds of funny stories. I think another funny story is I think I mentioned this maybe the one of the other times we were talking. I had an elderly client who wanted to paint their room and they ended up painting it. I think it was called like lime margarita or something, and it was like this terrible shade of green. But yeah, it was because their eyes thought that it was
Well,
like a lot lighter.
when we talked about that last
Yeah.
time or a couple of podcasts back, there's a learning experience that when people age, they see differently.
Mhm.
So that crazy bright color that's on somebody's wall to them, it's not really that crazy and bright. And I had shared the last house I was in. They had just before they sold it, they had just painted it like a limey green and this hot pink, and they were so proud of it. And I'm in my mind that moment I walked in will be that'll be changing within the next 4 days, like, guaranteed. And it did. It came in, just changed it all up. But I didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah.
that your eyes see differently as you get older.
They do. They do.
Wow.
And stuff that's more subtle, it's harder, things that have more high contrast are better. So, yeah, like,
Mm,
yeah, anyway, this is a little bit of a tangent, but yeah, you want specifically like in a kitchen to have a really distinct countertop from the rest of the cabinets. So, white on white is hard for them to see. So, having something that's dark with lighter cabinets or vice versa is better.
gotcha. Have you ever encountered you're working with somebody
Mhm.
and wall gets opened or things, change and then something is discovered? I guess bubble wrap's one of them, but
Oh.
any odd things?
Most of the time, it's it's little relics. When I say relics, I mean like magazine clippings
Okay.
from let's see, what was the oldest one? It was, I think, around the turn of the century in like the
Hmm.
1920s, 1930s, I think. That was one of my clients. A lot of the times it's wallpaper. So if it's been an older home that's just been kind of just turned over and turned over and turned over, we'll, yeah, we usually find some really good wallpaper. That's little little slice. In fact, I think I had one client that I think we saved it. I think we took it off and maybe we framed it or something. We did something with it to kind of
Hmm.
memorialize it. So yeah, there is, with homes in the East Coast in particular, because they are a lot of the times really old. Yeah, you do find some funny, yeah, just interesting things versus where I'm from originally, Texas. They don't usually have as much stuff in the
Really?
wall.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that. I didn't know that that would make a difference. I know once met a contractor at a networking event. We were just talking. I don't even know how this came up, but they opened up a wall. It was kind of a void,
Okay.
to your point, older house, and inside this opening, and they were gonna reconfigure it, knock down a wall, get some extra space. When they opened it up, there was a creepy looking doll on a chair just
Ooh,
sitting there. And the construction team were so freaked out about it that they wouldn't do the job. And so it was decided we're closing the wall up and we're just going to leave it the way it is. And that was it. And they continued doing what they needed to do around the creepy doll, but it was like just sitting there in a chair, just like nasty, like yeah.
ew, that's so gross. I, yeah, we found there was one home, I think we did find part of a book. I can't remember how old it was though. I don't know if it was that old, but yeah, anything super big. I haven't heard of a ton of stories. It's thankfully most of the time it's something positive, like, oh, look at these cool bricks we can use
Right.
in our patio that have like this cool date on them, or look at this cool piece of lumber we found we can make into the mantle on our fireplace, or
Yeah.
so like there's more, it's more of just this kind of fun discovery. Like, oh, look, we can, I don't know, like find even yeah, pieces. I mean, I think I had one client that used, I think what did we find? Maybe it was just pieces of wood. I don't know, but they did end up making something with it. So,
That is
yeah,
really cool when you think about it because it has meaning,
yes.
and you've kind of repurposed it. What about ever getting a delivery or paint and the color was just not what you were thinking, or the pattern was just not what you were thinking?
Well, sometimes it's not as noticeable as you think. Well, there are two things that come up to mind. One is I had a sofa delivered a number of years ago that I had ordered. We'd waited, yeah, 4 months, I think, for it. Finally got installed, and it wasn't at all the right color. And I remember thinking, what happened? Why is this so off? And turns out when we were ordering it, the fabric was a linen fabric, which is kind of that thinner kind of fabric.
Hmm.
And so I guess when I had emailed my order, I'd said I wanted this linen color oyster. I'd said I want the linen oyster color. Well, whenever they had put in the actual manufacturer's order, there was a color. Get this, Steve. There was a color that was named linen that was made out of linen. So because it was the color linen, it was a different color than what I had specified, even though that was also the name of the fabric. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It was like named after its own like properties. So the fabric, so it came in totally, totally wrong. So that was, yeah. So that's not like maybe I would say like the hugest surprise. Luckily, yeah, everything is fixable, but it was a little jarring. The other instance though, I had a client that we recently painted everything. It was supposed to be all the same color. And I came in, I was like, oh, this is nice. And I was like, wait, this feels like a little dark. Is this how it's supposed to look? And sure enough, the code was it was the right name, but the code was like one number off or something. So they painted it like all like a dark gray instead of this green color. So I was like, oh, okay. And my client, she was so sweet. She was like, oh, I just thought it was a little dark. She wasn't even kind of aware that it was wrong. But yeah, we got it fixed. But yeah, that was, in fact, I just picked up that paint from her house because I was like, yeah, I don't think you'll need this gray color anymore. But yeah, it was a funny kind of discovery.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it just shows you have details, like you just said, the details. One digit off in a code, and one would think that, is that going to really make that much of a difference?
Right,
Um,
right,
wow.
right. Yeah.
Great stories. Like I feel I'm not going to forget the bar stool. I just not like
It's
just
pretty
so
it's pretty unforgettable. Yeah, it's
awkward.
I
Just
know.
awkward for you and the client, at the
I
same
know.
time. Some people are good with it and says, "Yeah, my butt's not going to fit in that chair," but others may take offense to it. So,
I
um,
know. I thankfully she was the form the first option. Yeah, it was I'm very thankful. And that's also, when you have a good relationship with a client, that's when that's also helpful because I think
for
that
sure.
they know you have their best interest and you're not trying to just say, "Oh no, it's fine. You'll deal with it."
Yeah, no buts about it.
Right.
Best way to reach you, riseinteriors.co,
Yes, riseinteriors.co.
and the details, not
Yes,
.com,
that's
.co.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. Dot
Uh,
co for company. Yes.
Mary Jo, always great having you on here. Love your energy. Is just you make decorating fun. I believe I've said
Thank
that
you.
before, but it really is. You make it
Thank you.
feel like a fun process, which it should be.
It
The end
should be.
result, you're going to feel
Yeah.
good.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thanks, you.
Thanks for being here.
All right.
We'll be right back.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.